The next topic to talk about, we'll get you in the show now, Ethan. You told us before the show that a council has rejected fluoride or something like this.
Yes, just this week, the Southern Downs Regional Council on Wednesday voted to remove fluoride from their town water supplies. So to give a background, on December 4th, 2012, Lawrence Springboard, who was the Minister for Health at the time, made a decision to allow local councils to decide themselves whether they have fluoride within their water supply, which spreads out to their regions. Before that, Anna Bligh, who was the Premier of our state, introduced mandatory fluoridation in 2008 for all local councils, which was just an unprecedented example of state order control at the time. And I remember just the outrage that came when Anna Bligh said, and you can see the photos, which I can link to in the info box, of Anna Bligh signing saying, "I am forcing, fluoridation on the people of Queensland." And at the time, it was just absolutely, ridiculous. It was just unbelievable. So, local governments at the time, they had to apply to get an exemption to remove fluoride, with most communities not being eligible to do so for various reasons. So mandatory fluoridation was introduced, even though the people didn't want it, and then councils were almost every time knocked back. But on December 4, 2012, here in Queensland, it was knocked back, and now all councils are eligible to follow in their footsteps. And since then, over a dozen councils, it's continuing to rise, have unmedicated their water of fluoridation. And this is a fantastic achievement because, Queensland has some of the hardest working anti-fluoridation campaigners in this country, in this state. And that's why from 2008 to 2012, they were handing out information, they were lobbying, they were doing everything to try and get mandatory fluoridation abolished so that the people could go to the council and do it. And since then, over a dozen have, and we've also got great politicians such as Liberal member for Nudgee, Jason Woodforth, doing fantastic work in the state, who's been a campaigner for anti-fluoridation and pro-health for a while. Woodworth claimed one time on the Conspiracy Oz podcast with Mick Raven in Australia that over 30 of his LNP colleagues wanted fluoride outlawed and labelled it as a, quote, brain-altering poison. So just fantastic work all around in the state, whether it's political, abolished mandatory fluoridation. And, we can do a special on fluoride in the near future and speak about the obvious and documented dangers. But I thought, most of our listeners will probably be aware for now. And if not, they're certainly more inclined to objectively listen to our information and make their own conclusions than what the mainstream media has been telling them about fluoridation. So it has been abolished, and this decision means that fluoride will be removed from urban water supplies in Warwick, Stanthorpe, Elora, and Yangon. I've probably pronounced all of them wrong. Warwick.
Elora.
Sorry. As listeners have seen from my past episodes, I'm not too good at pronouncing anything, and I should not be doing role plays. But the good news is that that's another 35,000 people in these areas that will not have fluoridation. I just thought it was an incredibly positive result, and something that we could finally say was a positive piece of news this week.
No, I agree. And I've been told that Palm Island is even thinking about it as well. That's an Aboriginal group.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's very good too, because from what I can understand, the Aboriginals are more susceptible to the dangers of fluoride than the European population.
No, it was just fantastic to see, and I reported on this when it happened in 2012, that mandatory fluoridation has finally been scrapped. And just knowing the protesters myself and seeing all of the work that they were doing and how hard they were trying to get this out, and now the councils have been, slowly removing this due to, people holding town forums and getting the information out and debating this. Some really major, hundreds of thousands of people around the state now aren't subjected to, fluoridation, as opposed to where we are, where Campbell Newman, and this is one of the hardest regions, including also the Logan region, to get rid of. because it's just completely hard to get rid of. But the good thing is it's not mandatory anymore. And we do have the choice finally. Now the Southern Downs Regional Council has finally listened to the people and got rid of it. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'd like to have a general discussion about fluoride, using that as our little segue to do so. Yeah. If you had said to me, I'll be honest with you, if you said to me, even just a few years ago, fluoride is bad for you, they shouldn't put it in your water, I probably would have thought that you were an unusual person. I would have thought that you were, one of those people and because I'd never looked into it. And these days, I never try and tell people not to use fluoride. And if they ask me, I give them the honest answer. I try and avoid it. But I never bring it up with people because I know how I was just a few years ago. It's drummed into you that fluoride is good for you.
Yeah.
And what happened for me, like a lot of topics, was the moment that I actually went to do the research, not just go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is completely compromised. Not just going to Wikipedia. If you ever go to Wikipedia on a contentious issue like this, always go to the talk page. Look at what's being disbarred from being put on the front page. If you notice that scientific studies are being disbarred from the front page, check them out. And the more I looked into scientific studies, actual studies, into the so-called efficacy or whatever, the so-called benefits of fluoridation, and realizing that they were completely over-exaggerated, and then looking at the harms, which are completely understated, it dawned on me, wow, I was in the wrong here. If I had to judge someone for saying they don't like fluoride in the past, well, I was the fool. Because the moment that you spend even 15 or 20 minutes actually looking at the supposed reasons for it, you realize we have been conned.
Yeah. And just recently, the National Health and Medical Research Council, I think that's right, set up an advisory board on this. And what did they do? They stacked the whole thing full of dentists and people from that sort of crew. And I think there might have been one member of the public, if there was one.
Oh, but Lindsay, the dentists don't want people getting cavities. They want to sit in their practices with no customers. What do you think? They have some kind of vested interest in this?
Yes. Oh, anyway, I could get onto that because there are so many kids now with fluorosis, white and black teeth, and that's about $5,000 a pop to get them covered. Yeah. So anyway, I won't. And they'll be very insulted because I've said that. But that's
right. If there's any dentists listening to this podcast right now, get in touch with us. We'll get you on the show, and we will give you 15 minutes. If you're a pro fluoridation dentist, this is an open invitation to any dentists who might be listening now or in the future. By all means, get in touch with us. We will happily have you on the show. We need to have a discussion. If you like, we can make it a one-on-one conversation with myself, Ethan, or Lindsay, if you feel like you're being ganged up on. We'll do it fairly. Let anyone who claims to be in any way qualified to comment on this topic, to tell us that there should be mass fluoridation of the water, anyone who feels so inclined to think that they've got the rights to say that, come on the show and let's have a discussion and bring all the science that you think that you've got with you, because we'll pick it apart. I'll pick it apart on the spot. Yeah. Please, this is an open invitation.
No, and the thing even to resonate to people is just you can do it in layman terms as well and say, well, look at toothpaste. It says you do not swallow, danger, do not swallow, but yet this exact same amount is in the water. And people don't even, the amount of people that have told me that it's natural fluoride that comes from the rivers, and it's not. It's from the phosphate industry, hydrofluoric acid, and
but it's cadmium.
Arsenic.
Arsenic. Bang, bang, bang. Yeah, and there's no. The legislation says for 3 different lots of fluoridate, 3 fluoride chemicals can go in there. It says nothing about cadmium and arsenic and all these other things. So to me, that's criminal.
Yeah,
you've got no right to be putting that rubbish in their drinking water.
It's the same as vaccinating kids. If you want your kids vaccinated, vaccinate them. Why does everyone else have to get vaccinated? Because you think it's right. Do you know what I mean? And they'll say, but if your kid doesn't get vaccinated, then my kid's at risk. Hold on, I thought you said you vaccinated your kid. What's the point of vaccinating them if you think that they can still catch the disease just because my kid's in the same classroom? We're not even saying that my kid has the disease and I'm going to put him with your kid. If my kid's sick, I will just keep him at home, right? But you're saying that my kid has to be vaccinated because you've bought into the brainwashing that that's what you're supposed to do. It's the same with fluoride. If you want fluoride in your water, buy the fluoridated water. Put the fluoride tablets in the water. If that's what you think is good for you, do it. I feel sorry for your kids, but you have no right to say that my water supply has to be fluoridated because you bought into the brainwashing. That's ridiculous.
No, and and we've said before with the vaccines, if my kid is sick, what is the risk?
Yep.
If the vaccines actually work, your kid should be completely protected.
Exactly.
And it's just this whole notion of herd immunity. That no one's immune unless it's in an entire herd. You know what I mean? Everyone has to be vaccinated. Everyone has to have fluoride, so then we can be immune. It's completely rubbish.
I tell you what, when I was doing the research about the front pages of the Courier Mail, and we have to remember the front page for a lot of people is either all they see as they walk past a shop, or because it's a big image with big writing, it leaves an imprint on their mind. That's the whole idea. The front page is very significant, not just in what the direction it tells you about the newspaper's slant, but actually in its impact on the masses. And when I was doing my research, because I want to do a big thing about the Clive and Putt Palmer thing, that's probably a few weeks away, but when I was doing the research, I did notice that I'd never noticed before, the Courier Mail is running a massive anti-vaxxers are crazy campaign. And I noticed that on early July, there was a thing saying, shot in the arm, new plans developed to help suburbs that are lagging behind in their vaccination rates. And I won't waste the viewers' time by going through my notes here, but there was another time when they said something similar, again attacking people who don't want to get vaccinated. It's a coordinated mainstream effort to make people believe they have to be fluoridated, they have to get their kids vaccinated, whatever. And if you ram this message through their head enough, the majority are going to go with it. And once you get the majority going with it, most people will go with the majority. So people like us sitting here saying, actually, I don't believe I need fluoride to have healthy teeth. To many people, most of our listeners are probably switched on, but to many people, they would think that we're crazy because we're not going with the masses. And then you look how easy they're manipulated by things like the Courier Mail front page. It all makes sense what's going on here.
Yeah. No, it's blatant. And we, as I said, we can go more in depth into this into a future episode. And I'd love to do that with fluoride especially because that's a topic I'm really versed in. I know you are, Lindsay, and you are too, Johnno. You would be too. Just the overwhelming evidence and overwhelming refute to the mainstream establishment saying that this is good. It's just unbelievable.
I have to say, I know that there are a lot of people that are talking about this, and that's fantastic. It'd be remiss of us to talk about this topic without also mentioning A, how we came to realise what we realised, and B, what we do about it since we've got the knowledge. Now, we didn't plan on the rundown to spend this much time talking about fluoride, but we might as well. This is an important topic. I'll chuck this one to you, Lindsay. Did you ever believe that fluoride was good for you, like I used to, or have you always known that that was nonsense?
I can't remember how long ago it was, so I can't really remember. As long as I can remember, I've been against it. Just on the principle that, well, there is no dose. I mean, I can drink 5 or 6 glasses of water a day, or I can drink half a glass of water a day. And there is, and one of the National Health and Medical Research Council provisos was that they do a background check on all the fluoride so that we know how much background fluoride there is, and they've never ever done that. So anyway, there's so many things, but it's not just that. It's how dare you force me to take a poison? And it doesn't matter how you dress it up. That's 1080. That's what they give rats and they give dingoes and to kill them. So don't give me this rubbish that it's perfectly right. You'd have to have. I remember in Moree we had a fella up from the health department to give the council the rev up, about putting it in. You'd have to drink a swimming pool full of water a day to get poisoned. Bullshit! It's poison. I don't care. And when you discuss it with dentists, they only ever want to talk about teeth. They don't want to talk about bones. They don't want to talk about cancer. And there's been plenty of people in America for 50 years saying yes, it causes cancer in everybody. So anyway, I won't go on.
No, I mean it's the whole purpose of the show is to go on. And when you mentioned the dose thing, that I remember now when I was doing this research, because we're going back a few years now. That was a part that stuck out to me was when one of the pro fluoridation, because you always check both sides, right? Even one of the pro sides had said something about the dose that the average person takes, and they showed the mathematics that they've done to work this out. And I was like, hold on a second. I run and I cycle heaps. I drink tons of water. I probably drank 3 or 4 liters a day back at that point. I was like, hold on a second. Even by their own estimations, I'm overdosing on fluoride. And it wasn't just that I was overdosing on fluoride. It was that up until that point, I had thought that I thought fluoride was harmless. You see what I mean? Not, it's got some harms, but overall it's a benefit. I'd never been taught the other side at all, that there was harm, even according to the people who promote it. And I was sitting there doing the maths, and I was like, even by the people who promote this crap, even by their figures, I have overdosed already today. And when you have that realization, that changes everything. that you weren't even given. If you give people two sides and they choose a side, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you don't even give someone the other side of the argument, in fact, you tell them that anyone who believes the other side is crazy, like we were all, I don't know about you, Lindsay, but when we were growing up, that's pretty much what I was told.
Yeah.
Not, I don't mean by my parents specifically, I just mean by society, by television, by school, etc. When you tell someone holding the other side is the domain of crazy, and then you suddenly realise holding the other side are their concerns are entirely legitimate. In fact, I've been overdosing on this crap. Changes everything.
Yeah. Can I make one other point? I had a mate who died recently from cancer, and he was a pretty bright boy, and he investigated this, and he found out that when they give you a needle to do dental work, they've got fluoride in that in a massive amount because that accelerates it. So instead of having to sit there for 6 hours for this stuff to work, it works almost immediately within 20 minutes. So that he was blaming that in part. Now, I don't know whether that's genuine or not, but that was his thing, was these people, whatever you do, and especially at my age, your teeth start to crack, so you find you're having a lot of work done on your mouth. Now, if you're getting, for 3 months or 6 months, every month you're getting needles in you, you're copping a hell of a dose of fluoride. And I don't think most people out there realise just how much they're copping. And it's not just that, it's in fertilisers, it's in sprays on your food, it's in every damn thing.
Yeah, and most importantly in showers as well, it goes through your pores and and for me, waking up was it was a combination of just going down the rabbit hole. It was one of the facets of just the overall control that we have and the suppression, and just meeting people as well, and meeting people explaining it to me, and then doing my own research and thinking, this is unbelievable. And especially because personally, I know you both know that I'm more of a spirituality sort of person personally away from the show, the effects that it has on the pineal gland as well, which really concerned me at the time, which, the pineal gland is considered the third eye and whatnot. And just doing this research, it was just baffling. And to see that this medical establishment, just the same as it is with global warming, is a calculated assault which is funded by an agenda to tell you this when they haven't even done the research themselves. It was just to have the medical establishment and the media behind it. It was just, I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. It's poison. We are being medicated on a daily basis. Yeah. Medicated.
And told that it's good for us. And I think the whole process of what some people call waking up, or what I like to call deprogramming, it is a gradual process. There are steps along the way. And I think for a lot of people, realizing that you're being poisoned every day, but not just that. You're being told the poison's good for you. But not just that. You're being told people who don't want the poison are crazy. When that all dawns on you, when that actually sinks in, changes, it opens up a whole lot of doors that you wouldn't have gone through. And then you can start going through more doors on the process of waking up, a deprogram, whatever you want to call it. And once you start, there's really no stopping. So if you're listening to this podcast just because someone gave it to you, or you just stumbled on the internet and everything that we just said sounds crazy, you've got two choices now, Buster. You can either go and do your own research and find out what we found out, or you can just turn the podcast off now, go back to Dancing with the Stars, eating your GMO food, drinking your fluoride, because once you realise what's actually being done to you, there'll be no stopping you. You want to learn more, and there's so much more to learn. Yeah. Before we do move on to one of those other topics, though, I do want to make sure that we do give the listeners who this might be new to some solutions here. If the fluoride's in your drinking system, as it is here in Brisbane at the moment in 2014, what do you do to get around it?
It's usually expensive. Well, my experience is an expensive thing. You've got to get reverse osmosis filters and all that sort of stuff. And that's if you want to have a shower. I know a lady who was allergic to it, so she had to do that for a shower, as well as drinking water. I go to the local service station. There's a reverse osmosis system at the service station. I can buy 10 litres of water for $3, and if I buy 20, it's much cheaper again. And I just get that every month or whatever. But I don't know about what you people do, but that's how I try to get around it.
What about you, Ethan? What do you do, man?
There's a couple of good companies that sell non-fluoridated water, but then they still have the rest of the crap that's in the water as well. It's hard to get around. There's really no definite solution, like to 100% get clean, proper water, unless you live, where you've got a well that you can get out of to. And when I tasted water from a well for the first time, you know what I mean, that came directly from in the earth, you know what I mean? It was unbelievable.
Almost sounds like a religious experience, doesn't
it? I took a pilgrimage to Sacred Well. But you can notice it so much, and that was when I really started personally campaigning about fluoride, is when I tasted proper water that was just overwhelmingly different from the crap that were being... And in Queensland, when it was introduced, they put too much in it, and too many people got sick originally. That was the problem. And then they had to dose it, but they messed up the entire thing straight off the bat, and there was too much fluoride in the water, and people were getting sick, and people were getting headaches, and straight off the bat they'd done it. But I've noticed through my personal experience that the water from the tap is increasingly getting worse and worse tasting. It's for some reason, and it's just, it's crap.
Yeah,
it's crap.
There may be, I know they're putting purifiers in it, other purifiers, and they've got a tendency to have a taste that comes through as well. Because I think the fluoride, I think, is you can't taste it. But yeah, I don't know any easy way around it. I mean, if you've got plenty of money, you can.
What about you, Johnno?
Well, as you guys know, we don't plan to be commercial with this show. This is just a bunch of guys getting together and talking, so I don't want to promote any specific brands, but there are brands out there. There are water purifiers you can buy. They are expensive, unfortunately. Like, I'm talking $300. Yeah. Mine is in transit right now.
Okay.
Because my housemate had a water purifier from this particular brand, and I was skeptical at first, but I loved the water that came out. Now, you have to trust, they put on their website that it was independently tested by this group or that group, and it came back with these results. How can you know? Even if it is a mass-selling brand, the fact is that you know that the water had fluoride added to it. You can't know that the filter took it out of it. But this particular brand, it comes with the two different filters, like the charcoal one to get rid of the normal stuff, and then a specific fluoride filter. All you can do is hope that is getting rid of the fluoride like it says it is. And like I said, it's a few $100s, and mine is in the mail at the moment. In the meantime, just down at the shops, not from where I live, there is a big machine that sits there in the car park where you can put a few dollars in and it spits out 15 or 20 litres of water. So I walk down there twice a week, perhaps, with my big plastic containers for water. Now, I know you don't want plastic in you, but I would take plastic over fluoride. That's how much I just test the stuff now. So I walk down there, and then I fill up the 2 10-litre containers and walk back home. It's a good workout. My shoulders are getting complimented by everybody. In fact, that was the one thing that stopped me from ordering the $300 water filter thing. I was like, no, this is forcing me to walk down to the shops. It's a really good workout. I think even when my Berkey arrives in the mail, I'll still try and do that more often. It's a good workout. Yeah. And so, those are your options. If you live near a shopping centre that has one of those devices that spits out the defluoridated water, that's one option. Another option is to buy one of these devices that cost a few $100, but hopefully you're trying. Look, if it's a choice between $300 in your pocket and no fluoride, or much less fluoride, and fluoride and $300 in your pocket, the only kind of person who would choose the $300 is someone who's had too much fluoride. They've got no hope. But I tell you what, guys, we spent way more